Let's get started on today's session, or the next session today. Tidying it up this time. Well, it looks like I've somehow ruined that already. Should be the other way around. Alright. So what's happened is our code's just getting a little bit long. Not a lot, but it's starting to get long. And now's a great opportunity to figure out how to separate it when you don't need to edit certain sections anymore. And this principle goes forward, not so much I don't think with assembly, although it can be, but with object orientated languages. The smaller piece you can make it, the better, and make it self-contained so that it just does one task that it's asked. Then that's the ideal function. That helps you not only organize it, but it helps you to modify it as well. Makes it much easier to modify. It also makes it much easier to modify your main function game flow. We noticed it in a different lesson, in fact in an earlier lesson in this thing, where we separated these into their functions, and then we were able to move them about in main, the order they were being called, very easily. So the first thing I'd want to break out from here, there's not that much really, but the data itself can be moved. It's taking up space on this file, it doesn't need to. For example, we've got UDG here. So we'll create a new file. Just write UDG S, because that's what we're going to call the file. I've pressed Control S, it's now giving me the save dialog, and I'm actually going to create a folder for demonstration purposes. So I'll show you in a minute in PowerShell. This folder is going to be called sprites. Okay. And then inside the file sprites, I'm saving udgs.asm. That's all I had to do was type it and press enter. And as you can see, I've got it. And you can actually see the file's path there. But just for completion, let's look at it down here. So you see I've got my new folder sprites, and this is the oh crikey, forget the actual terminology for that, but that's your base. This is your base game folder. So wherever I've put the initial ASM with my main function, where the program starts. I mean, obviously that could have been in its own folder as well, but this makes it a lot easier because it will look from where it starts and go from there. So so firstly, let's create our UDG. So I'm taking all of that, cutting it out, I'm deleting that word, and I'm putting that there. Simple as that. Now, it's very common and worthwhile to comment at each file to say what it is. Collection of UDG characters. Alright, so obviously you didn't need it for this particular file, but it makes good sense to do so. A lot of the time you'll see a lot more detail, 8 by 8 sprite, but sometimes you need to have the detail. I mean, this is, you know straight away, but often you take notes about how your code has to be structured in order for the code that's in there to be able to work through it automatically. We've already done all that, and in fact this will work straight away. The only thing we have to remember to do, I'm told we should be putting this at the top, but I always put all the fields and definitions, which is what we're doing here, defining fields and properties. In every other language it's done at the top of the file, but every single assembly language example I've ever seen has it at the bottom. But you know, later we'll try it at the top. It'll probably be exactly the same. So as you see, I've done double quote mark. Well, no, I shouldn't do that, because at first I need to write include double quote mark udgs.asm. But because we're not in the same folder, sprites, I think backslash is fine, but we'll double check now. Make sure both files are saved. Compile, and it's compiled just fine. So, in other words, it's working. Now if I was to put a 1 on the end there, error in line 177 not found. Similarly, if I was to forget to put that label there, error in line 20, UDG is an undefined symbol. Okay, again that colon is not essential. So straight away we've managed to reduce the size of this code, and if we had had, you know, 20 of these, that would have reduced it a lot. We could even make one called constants. There's no reason why we can't do that. I'll keep that in the same folder that we're in. Make sure it's not called constants.txt, it's constant.asm. Maybe .text would work, but I'm not going to try that. So now we can just include constants.asm, and we can just declare all of our constants inside that file, just for tidiness. Not sure about that one, but I'm going to try it. Might not like this. No, line 2. Oh, so it's previously defined. Interesting. Now's a good chance to try out putting everything at the top, all the data. Oh, my mouse wheel is doing my head in. I go through so many mice. Okay, right at the top I'm going to try pasting this, just to see if that works for us. Oh, I possibly just didn't save everything. Huh. Well, it compiled, but we got a black screen. Entry point is undefined. Yeah, so as I suspected, it needs that before anything else. But other than that, all these other constants that we defined are fine. Should work now. And there we go. So it's a way of tidying up your code. Like I say, this here is duplicated and could potentially be put into a function where you load that. However, it would need to know which the function itself would have to come up with a way of knowing which one we're using to know which ones to call. So I think it's actually going to be a lot more efficient just to do it like this. I mean, of course, it's even more efficient just to do to not use that. We don't need them push and pops if we're not going to call the. I mean, really, we don't even need that because we're not going any further. So we've rolled it twice and just check that, you see. That's all good. So that'll make it run a little bit faster. There's no real way to tidy up the rest of this going forward. We don't really need to move these. These are all sort of happy. I'm happy where they are. That can be deleted. The movement code, again, I like having it in this main file, and we're there. I mean, we could separate player variables. In fact, all of that is player variables. Probably will eventually. This mouse wheel is absolutely getting on my wick. I do have a Logitech around somewhere, but the same problem, so I might have to go back to that one. I think it's slightly better than this one now. This HyperX didn't last too long. HyperX, what's it called? The label's worn off the bottom. I can't even read what brand, what model it was anyway. This is going to conclude the short lesson on tidying the file and keeping it, creating dependent files or whatever the word is for those, and how to include them. You could also use ink bin. Ink bin, and that you might have to just forget that for now because you don't need it. As long as you do it in this format where you put the label in this file, it works as far as I know without using ink bin. But you can include a binary with ink bin, and then you probably specify the name here. So you put udg ink bin, that file, and then you'd just remove that. But like I say, this works fine. It's really easy to remember. Going forward, we're going to be doing it a lot. We're going to be starting things in fresh files and linking them in here. Next lesson coming up later today, we're going to be adding some small sound effects. First thing we'll do is add sound effects, and that'll just be like, we'll just do one to when the game starts, maybe one when you hit a wall side of the screen. That'll be the end of the lesson. Then finally we'll be adding some power-ups to collect, and then a score system, and then we'll have a basic game on our hands already. Alright, so thanks again for watching. Hope some people out there are enjoying the series. If you are, please give a thumbs up and a comment, because that will keep me going. I don't know how many people are actually bothering to watch these series. Obviously it's using quite a lot of my time. Yeah, other than that, have a good day. Catch you later on. Bye bye.